The transport ship arrived at Station Harmony 7 just after dawn cycle. Minho pressed his face against the small window, watching the massive space station grow larger. His heart beat fast in his chest. 12 humans had been chosen from all of Earth to attend the Galactic Council's new military academy. He was one of them. The station was huge, bigger than any city Minho had ever seen. Ships from dozens of worlds docked at its arms. Some looked like elegant birds. Others looked like weapons with engines. Earth's transport ship looked tiny and simple next to them. "First time seeing aliens?" asked Deho, another human cadet sitting beside him. He was older, maybe 25, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. "Yeah," Minho admitted. "You?" "Saw some during the selection trials. They're different." Deho laughed, but it sounded forced. "Really different." The docking took 30 minutes. When the doors finally opened, Minho grabbed his single bag and followed the others out. The station's air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet he couldn't name. The gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth's. The docking bay was full of cadets. Minho saw beings he had only studied in videos. Tall creatures with 4 arms, small ones with scales that changed colors. A group of floating jellyfish-like beings that spoke in musical tones. And then he saw the Velkari. They stood apart from everyone else, and Minho understood why. Each one was massive, at least 8 feet tall, with 6 powerful limbs and bodies covered in dark fur. Their faces were flat with wide mouths full of sharp teeth. When they moved, muscles rippled under their skin. They looked like they could tear through metal. One of the Velkari noticed Minho staring. It growled low, showing its teeth. Minho quickly looked away. "Those are the apex predators," Deho whispered. "The Velkari. Their world has 3 times Earth's gravity. They've conquered 30 star systems through military force alone." "Be careful around them," a loud voice echoed through the bay. "All cadets proceed to Assembly Hall 7. Your orientation begins in 20 minutes. The crowd moved as one. Minho stayed close to the other humans, feeling small and weak. Most of the aliens were bigger, stronger, or had natural weapons. Humans had none of that. Just intelligence and stubbornness, his instructors back on Earth had said. He hoped that would be enough. Assembly Hall 7 was enormous, with seats arranged in a circle around a central platform. Minho sat with the other humans in one section. The Velkari sat directly across from them, staring with predator eyes. An alien walked onto the platform. It was Velkari, but older, with scars covering its face and one arm missing below the elbow. When it spoke, its voice rumbled like thunder. "I am Haxor, head combat instructor of this academy. You are here because your species believe you are worthy. Most of you will fail. Some of you will quit. A few will die." Haxor's eyes swept the room. "This academy trains soldiers for the Galactic Council's peacekeeping force. We do not train diplomats. We do not train scientists. We train warriors who can survive anything." The room was silent. "You will be divided into survival pods, 2 cadets per pod. Different species working together. You will learn to hunt together, fight together, survive together, or you will fail together." Haxor smiled, showing rows of teeth. "Your pod assignments are final. No changes. No complaints." A holographic display appeared listing names and species. Minho searched for his name. When he found it, his blood went cold. Pod 47, Minho, human. Tarkesh, Velkari. Around the room, other cadets reacted to their assignments. Some seemed pleased. Others looked worried. The Velkari section erupted in harsh laughter. One of them, younger than the others but still massive, stood and pointed at Minho. "The human is mine," Tarkesh shouted. "This will be easy. Prey species should not be in this academy." Other aliens laughed or whispered. The humans around Minho looked at him with pity. Daiho put a hand on his shoulder. "Stay calm. Don't show fear. That's what they want." Haxor raised his remaining arm. "Silence. Each pod will report to your assigned training chamber. You have 1 hour to prepare. Your survival scenario begins at sunset." The assembly ended. Cadets moved toward their designated areas. Minho walked slowly, his bag feeling heavier with each step. Tarkesh followed behind him, close enough that Minho could hear the aliens breathing. The training chamber door was thick metal, designed to contain anything inside. A small window allowed observers to watch. Inside, the chamber looked empty, just a bare room with high ceilings and metal walls. "This is temporary," a mechanical voice announced. "The environment will activate when your scenario begins." Minho set his bag down in a corner. Tarkesh walked around the chamber, examining everything with predator focus. The alien was even bigger up close, with claws as long as Minho's fingers and muscles that looked like they could crush stone. "You are afraid?" Tarkesh said suddenly. It wasn't a question. Minho took a breath before answering. "Yes." The honesty seemed to surprise Tarkesh. The alien tilted its head. "Why do humans think they can be soldiers?" "You have no claws, no thick skin. You are slow and weak. On my world you would be food." "Maybe," Minho said, "but I'm not on your world, and neither are you," Tarkesh growled. "You dare speak to me with pride? I could kill you with one hand." "You could," Minho agreed, keeping his voice steady. "But you won't, because we're supposed to survive this together. Killing me means you fail too." For a moment, Tarkesh said nothing. Then the alien laughed, a harsh barking sound. "Clever prey. Using the rules as protection, fine, I will not kill you. But you will learn your place, human. You will learn that strength is everything." Before Minho could respond, the chamber shuddered. The walls began to change, shifting and reforming. Holographic projections mixed with physical barriers. Within minutes, the bare room had transformed into something else entirely. Dense jungle appeared on one side with thick vines and strange plants. Beyond that, Minho saw frozen mountains. Another direction showed desert sand. The chamber was huge, far bigger than it had looked from outside. The mechanical voice returned. Survival scenario Omega activated. Duration 7 days. Objective: reach the extraction point together. Rules none. Interference none. Food and water must be acquired. Failure conditions: death of either pod member, failure to reach extraction point within time limit, or requesting emergency extraction. A final voice joined them. Haxor's voice coming from speakers hidden in the walls. Begin. The chamber door sealed shut with a heavy metallic sound. Locks engaged with loud clicks. Through the small window, Minho saw Haxor standing outside watching them. The old instructor was smiling. Tarkesh cracked his knuckles, all 6 hands making the gesture simultaneously. 7 days, human. Try not to die on the first one. Minho looked at the jungle, then the mountains, then back at Tarkesh. He wasn't the strongest or the fastest, but he was human, and humans knew how to survive. 7 days, he agreed. Let's see who learns what. Tarkesh moved first, charging toward the jungle section of the chamber with the confidence of a born predator. Minho didn't follow. Instead, he stayed near the entrance area, carefully examining their surroundings. The jungle looked real enough, with actual plants and moisture in the air. Temperature varied between zones. This wasn't just holograms. The Academy had built real environments inside this massive chamber. "What are you doing, human?" Tarkesh called from the jungle edge. "We must find food and shelter before darkness." "I'm thinking," Minho replied, studying the position of artificial lights on the ceiling that mimicked a sun. Tarkesh snorted. "Thinking is for prey that hides. Action is for predators that hunt. And rushing in without planning is for predators that starve," Minho said calmly. He pulled a small notebook from his bag and began sketching a rough map of what he could see. Jungle to the east, mountains to the north, desert to the west, and what looked like cave entrances to the south. The Velkari watched him with obvious impatience. "You waste time. I will hunt. You will stay here and think." The word came out like an insult. Tarkesh disappeared into the jungle. Minho could hear crashing sounds as the alien moved through the plants with no attempt at stealth. He shook his head and continued his work. First priority was water. The jungle probably had streams. Second was shelter. The caves might work but could be dangerous. Third was food. Tarkesh would probably catch something, whether Minho helped or not. Minho walked the perimeter of their starting area looking for useful materials. He found some fallen branches, vines, large leaves. He began gathering them, his mind already planning. Humans might not be the strongest, but they were excellent at using tools. 2 hours passed. The artificial sun moved across the ceiling, heading toward evening. Minho had built a basic lean-to shelter using branches and leaves, positioned near the jungle but not inside it. He'd started a small pile of dry wood for a fire. He'd found a few edible-looking plants, though he wouldn't eat them without testing first. Tarkesh emerged from the jungle carrying a dead creature that looked like a cross between a rabbit and a lizard. Blood dripped from the Velkari's claws. He stopped when he saw what Minho had built. "What is this?" Tarkesh demanded. "Shelter," Minho said. "It'll keep rain off us if the weather changes." The position gives us visibility of 3 zone entrances. Tarkesh dropped the dead animal. I need no shelter. Velkari sleep under the stars. That's nice for you, Minho said, not looking up from the fire he was trying to start. I need shelter. Humans aren't built for extreme temperatures. Weak, Tarkesh muttered, but he didn't argue further. Instead, he began tearing into the raw meat of his kill. Minho finally got the fire started using friction and dry moss. The small flames grew, fed by careful arrangement of wood. Tarkesh watched with interest. You make fire with no tools? The alien asked. Friction creates heat. Heat creates fire. Basic physics. Minho cut portions of meat from Tarkesh's kill and suspended them over the fire using green sticks. I need to cook mine. Human digestive systems can't handle raw meat safely. More weakness. Different biology, Minho corrected. Your species evolved to hunt and eat immediately. Mine evolved to cook food, which kills bacteria and extracts more nutrients. Different solutions to the same problem. Tarkesh ate in silence for a while, watching Minho work. The human moved with steady efficiency, never hurrying but never stopping. As darkness fell, the fire provided light and warmth. The temperature had dropped significantly. You worked while I hunted, Tarkesh finally said. Yes. Why? You could have rested? I brought food. Minho turned the cooking meat. Because shelter and fire are as important as food. We need all 3 to survive 7 days. I need only food and water. You need those things. I need more. If we're supposed to survive together, then we both need to stay healthy. Minho pulled the cooked meat from the fire and began eating. That's how humans think. We survive as groups, not individuals, Tarkesh growled softly. Velkari prove themselves alone. A cub that cannot survive alone is weak. And a human who tries to survive alone is stupid, Minho replied. We're different species with different strengths. You're faster and stronger. I can build and plan. Together we're more effective than either alone. The Velkari stood abruptly, all 6 limbs tense. You speak as if we are equals. We are not. I am predator. You are prey. Minho met Tarkesh's eyes without flinching. If I'm prey, then why am I not running? Why am I sitting here sharing fire and food with you? Prey doesn't do that. You are too stupid to run. Or maybe, Minho said quietly, I'm not prey at all. Maybe humans are something your species doesn't have a word for yet. Before Tarkesh could respond, a loud roar echoed through the chamber. Both of them froze. The sound came from the jungle, deep and aggressive. Something big was moving through the trees. What was that? Minho whispered. Tarkesh's ears flattened against his skull. Trouble. A massive shape emerged from the jungle. It stood 12 feet tall on 4 legs with armored plates covering its body and a tail that ended in a spiked club. Red eyes glowed in the firelight. When it opened its mouth, they saw rows of teeth designed for crushing bone. Training robot, Tarkesh said, designed to mimic a Krellian Deathstalker. Very dangerous, the robot roared again and charged straight at them. Tarkesh reacted instantly, leaping forward to meet the charge head-on. The collision was brutal. The Velkari's strength was impressive, but the robot was heavier and armored. Tarkesh's claws scraped against metal plates, finding no purchase. The robot's tail swung around, aimed at Tarkesh's head. It would crush his skull. Down! Minho shouted. Tarkesh dropped instantly, and the tail whistled over his head. Minho had already grabbed a burning branch from the fire and threw it at the robot's face. The flames didn't hurt the machine, but the bright light made its sensors adjust. It turned toward Minho. Run, you fool! Tarkesh yelled, but Minho didn't run. He grabbed another branch and moved sideways, leading the robot away from their camp. The machine followed, tracking the movement and heat. Minho kept the fire between himself and the robot, using the flames as a barrier. Its underside. Minho called to Tarkesh. The armor doesn't cover everything. Tarkesh understood immediately. While the robot focused on Minho, the Velkari circled around and dove under its belly. His claws found gaps in the armor, tearing at vulnerable joints and wiring. The robot spun, trying to shake Tarkesh loose. Minho used the distraction to grab a heavy rock and throw it at the machine's sensor cluster. His throw was accurate. Glass cracked. Working together without planning it, they attacked in coordination. Minho distracted and disrupted. Tarkesh damaged and destroyed. The robot's movements became jerky, then stopped entirely. It collapsed with a heavy crash. Silence returned to the chamber. Tarkesh crawled out from under the dead machine, bleeding from several cuts but alive. He stared at Minho, who was breathing hard, still holding a rock. You... Tarkesh started, then stopped. You saved my life. We saved each other, Minho corrected. Like I said, together we're more effective. Tarkesh was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, less aggressive. Perhaps humans are not prey? Perhaps Velkari can learn, Minho replied with a small smile. Neither of them noticed Haxor outside the chamber, watching through the window with great interest. Outside the training chamber in a dark observation room, 5 instructors watched multiple screens showing different cadet pods. Most showed normal survival scenarios. Cadets building shelters, searching for food, arguing about strategy. Pod 47's screen showed something different. The human hasn't shown fear once, said Sora, a female instructor with green scales and golden eyes. Her species, the Theks, were known for their tactical intelligence. The Velkari cub tried to dominate him at least 6 times. The human just keeps working. Beside her, a floating jellyfish-like being named Quan pulsed with soft blue light. Its voice came from a translator device. Interesting survival strategy. The human doesn't compete with the Velkari's strength. He works around it. Instructor Haxor sat in the center, his remaining hand resting on the arm of his chair. His eyes never left the screen showing Minho and Tarkesh. Do any of you know why I paired them? To test interspecies cooperation, Quan suggested. To see if a human could survive near a Velkari, Sora added. Haxor shook his massive head. No, I paired them because I wanted to see if a Velkari could learn to fear. The other instructors turned to look at him. Fear? Sora's scales shifted to orange, indicating confusion. Velkari don't fear. They're apex predators. Exactly, Haxor said quietly. We fear nothing, and that makes us stupid. On the screen, Minho was showing Tarkesh how to preserve meat by smoking it over the fire. The young Velkari watched with obvious interest, asking questions. Haxor continued. 20 years ago, I was part of a Velkari conquest fleet. We attacked a human colony world. Small population, maybe 2,000 humans. We thought it would be easy. Humans looked weak. No claws, no natural armor, no venom, just soft. The observation room was silent now. Even the monitoring equipment seemed to quiet. We chased them into the wilderness, hunted them for sport, but they didn't die easily. They ran and we followed. Then they stopped running. They started hunting us back. Haxor's voice became distant, remembering. They didn't fight like Velkari. They didn't charge or roar or try to prove strength. They just never stopped. We would wound one, and the next day that same human would be in front of us again, setting a trap. We would chase them to exhaustion, but they kept moving. 3 weeks. They led us across that entire continent. What happened? Quan asked softly. We lost 40 warriors. The humans didn't kill them all. Some died from poisoned water, others from infected wounds. A few just collapsed from exhaustion, chasing enemies that never stopped running. Haxor's scarred face tightened, and when we finally cornered them thinking we had won, they had already called for help. Council peacekeepers arrived. The humans had evidence of our illegal attack. They had documented everything. They captured us, Haxor said. 2,000 prey animals captured an entire Velkari warship crew. Not by strength, by patience, by refusing to give up, by being smarter than we were. Sora's scales shifted to deep purple, indicating respect mixed with unease. I heard rumors about that incident. The Dracon Collective calls humans the Smiling Hunters. I thought it was exaggeration. It's not, Haxor said firmly. Humans evolved as pursuit predators. On Earth, they hunted animals by following them for days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. They didn't need to be fast. They just needed to never stop. That's what makes them dangerous. On the screen, Minho was now teaching Tarkesh about tracking techniques, showing him how to read footprints in broken branches. The Galactic Council approved human membership 6 months ago, Quan noted. Many species opposed it. They said humans were too aggressive, too warlike. They are warlike, Haxor agreed, but not the way we are. Velkari fight for honor and conquest. Humans fight for survival and protection. They created weapons that could destroy their entire planet, then aimed those weapons at each other for generations. They lived under the threat of total extinction and just kept going, kept building, kept trying. That sounds insane, Sora said. It is, Haxor replied, but that's what makes them valuable. Every species in the Council achieved space travel through their primary strength. Velkari conquered their system through military force. Theks unified through collective intelligence. Felnari innovated through art and science. Humans. They achieved it through stubbornness. Pure, unbreakable stubbornness. Quan's light pulsed thoughtfully. You still haven't explained why you wanted Tarkesh to learn fear. Haxor finally looked away from the screen. Because Velkari need to learn that strength isn't everything. Tarkesh was sent here by the War Council specifically to prove Velkari's superiority. He's supposed to dominate every other species, especially humans. He's young, arrogant, and believes prey species are worthless. And you want to prove him wrong. Sora understood. I want him to understand what real danger looks like. Haxor corrected. A charging enemy is not dangerous. An enemy with bigger claws is not dangerous. A truly dangerous enemy is one that studies you, learns your weaknesses, and never stops coming. That's a human. On the screen, night had fallen in the chamber. Minho and Tarkesh sat by the fire. They weren't fighting. They were talking, sharing stories. The young Velkari gestured wildly, describing something from his homeworld. Minho listened and laughed at something Tarkesh said. They're bonding, Quan observed. Good, Haxor said. That's the first step. Tarkesh is learning that humans aren't prey. Next, he'll learn what they really are. Which is? Sora asked. Haxor's expression became serious. The species that scares me. The only one in the entire galaxy that scares me. The observation room fell silent. Sora's scales rippled through several colors, processing this information. Haxor was legendary among instructors, a warrior who had fought in 30 battles across 20 worlds. The idea that anything scared him was shocking. You're afraid of humans? Sora finally asked. I respect them, Haxor clarified, which for my species is the same as fear. We respect only what can defeat us, and humans can defeat us, not through strength, through persistence, through that damned stubbornness that makes them refuse to quit no matter what. He pointed at the screen. Watch Minho. He's smaller than Tarkesh, weaker, slower, but he's adapted his entire strategy around those facts. He doesn't try to be a Velkari. He just keeps being human, and slowly, without violence or dominance displays, he's teaching Tarkesh that there are other ways to be strong. This is why you locked them in together, Sora realized. You're not testing if they can survive. You're testing if Tarkesh can learn. And if humans can teach, Haxor added. If Minho can change a Velkari's worldview in 7 days, then humans are more dangerous than any of us realized. Because changing minds is more powerful than breaking bodies. Quan pulsed red, indicating concern. What if the Council decides humans are too dangerous? What if they vote to remove them? Haxor was quiet for a moment. Then the Council will make the biggest mistake in galactic history. Because humans don't give up. Ever. If we reject them, they'll just work harder to prove themselves. And eventually they'll succeed. They always do. On the screen, Minho was now examining a map he'd drawn in the dirt, planning their route to the extraction point. Tarkesh watched closely, asking questions, learning. Day 1 is almost over, Sora noted. 6 more days. 6 more days for a Velkari cub to learn that the galaxy is bigger than he thought, Haxor said. And 6 more days for us to decide if humans belong among the stars. He leaned back in his chair, never taking his eyes off the screen. I already know my answer. I just hope the Council is smart enough to see what I see. Which is? Quan asked. The future, Haxor replied simply. Annoying, persistent, absolutely unstoppable. The human future. The 4th day began with storm warnings. The chamber's artificial weather system activated clouds that looked real enough to fool anyone. Thunder rolled across the ceiling and rain began to fall, heavy and cold. Minho had prepared for this. The shelter he'd built had a sloped roof that directed water away. Inside, he'd dug a small drainage trench. They stayed dry while the storm raged outside. Tarkesh watched the rain with obvious discomfort. I hate water. Velkari fur takes hours to dry. We can stay here until it passes, Minho suggested, organizing their supplies. But the storm didn't pass. It grew stronger. Lightning flashed, not from the ceiling but from actual electrical systems built into the chamber. The thunder became deafening. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting flickered on, casting everything in a harsh red glow. An alarm began blaring throughout the chamber. The mechanical voice that had greeted them 4 days ago crackled through damaged speakers. Warning. System malfunction. Containment fields compromised. Warning. Tarkesh's ears flattened. Something's wrong. The ground shook. Through the rain they heard roars and screeches, not from training robots. These sounded organic, alive, and very angry. The containment fields, Minho realized. They must have been holding real creatures for advanced training. The storm damaged the system. A massive shape moved through the rain toward them. It was serpentine, at least 30 feet long, with scales that shimmered even in the red emergency lights. When it opened its mouth, venom dripped from fangs as long as Minho's arm. Vex serpent, Tarkesh whispered with genuine fear. One of the most deadly creatures in the galaxy. 3 of them can kill everything on a planet. We need to run, Minho said. For once, Tarkesh didn't argue. They abandoned their shelter and ran into the storm. The Vex serpent followed, moving impossibly fast for something so large. Minho could hear it behind them, could smell its venom burning the plants it touched. The emergency beacon, Tarkesh shouted over the rain. Center of the chamber. It's our only chance. They ran through multiple zones, the jungle now flooding. The desert turned to mud. The mountains where lightning struck dangerously close. The serpent never stopped following. Minho's lungs burned. His legs ached. But he kept running. That's what humans did. They ran until they couldn't, and then they ran more. They found other cadets. A pair of Krallans, small lizard-like beings, were trapped on a rock surrounded by rising water. Without slowing, Minho and Tarkesh grabbed them and kept moving. Put us down, one Krallan protested. Vex serpent behind us. Tarkesh snarled. Move or die. They found a female Thex named Hyejin hiding in a cave. She was tactical and smart but paralyzed with fear. I can't move. There are things out there. There are definitely things out there, Minho agreed, pulling her to her feet. That's why we're not staying here. A wounded Falnari named Junho lay near the cave entrance, his leg badly injured. He was from a peaceful species, artists and philosophers who avoided violence. The sight of so much danger had broken something in him. Leave me, Junho said quietly. I'll only slow you down. Tarkesh looked at Minho. The Velkari's expression was clear. Leaving the weak was logical. Minho bent down and lifted Junho onto his back. Nobody gets left behind. Human, Tarkesh growled. He will slow us. The serpent will catch us. Then we'll deal with the serpent, Minho said firmly. But we're not leaving him. That's not what humans do. Tarkesh stared at him for a long moment. Then surprisingly, the Velkari nodded. You are insane. But if we die, at least it will be honorable. The group moved together. Minho carried Junho. Tarkesh led the way, his superior senses finding the safest path. Hyejin, once she overcame her fear, proved valuable with her tactical mind. The Krallans were small but quick, scouting ahead. They could see the emergency beacon now. A tall tower in the chamber's center with flashing lights. But the Vex serpent was between them and safety. We can't go around it, Hyejin said. It's too fast. It'll catch us. We can't fight it, one Krallan added. Its venom melts armor. Minho carefully set Junho down against a rock. His mind was racing, analyzing, planning. Humans were pursuit predators, yes, but they were also ambush hunters. They could be patient. They could plan. What if we don't run from it? Minho asked. Everyone stared at him. What if we hunted instead? That's suicide, Hyejin said flatly. Maybe, Minho agreed. Or maybe it's the only way we survive. Tarkesh, can that thing's venom hurt itself? The Velkari thought about it. Yes. Vex serpents are immune to their own species' venom, but not their individual venom. Why? Minho pointed to a section of tunnel that ran under the beacon tower. The serpent is chasing us, right? It tracks by heat and movement. What if we lead it exactly where we want it to go? Understanding dawned on Tarkesh's face. A trap, Minho confirmed. We use the tunnel. Collapse it at the right moment. Use its own weight and venom against it. Who leads it into the trap? Hyejin asked, though she already knew the answer. I do, Minho said. I'm the slowest runner here. The serpent will focus on me as easy prey. That's not being slow, Tarkesh said quietly. That's being bait. Same thing from the serpent's perspective. Minho managed a weak smile. I just need you to collapse the tunnel at exactly the right moment. Can you do that? Tarkesh looked at this small human who had carried a wounded stranger through a deadly storm, who had refused to abandon anyone, who was now volunteering to face a monster alone. Something shifted in the Velkari's understanding. Can I do it? Tarkesh repeated. Human, I am Velkari. Of course I can do it, they prepared quickly. Tarkesh and the Krallans positioned themselves at the tunnel's support pillars. Hyejin set up signal markers. Junho, despite his injury, agreed to create noise as a distraction at a specific moment. Minho stood in the open, directly in the serpent's path. The rain had slowed, making visibility better. He could see the creature clearly now. It was magnificent and terrifying, 30 feet of pure killing efficiency. He waved his arms. "Hey, over here!" The serpent's head snapped toward him. Its tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Then it charged. Minho ran. Not in panic, but with purpose. He ran toward the tunnel entrance, measuring his pace. Too fast and he'd reach safety before the serpent was in position. Too slow and he'd die. Humans evolved for this, running at exactly the right speed, maintaining exactly the right distance. Never too close to be caught, never too far to lose interest. The serpent followed, completely focused on the fleeing prey. Minho dove into the tunnel. The serpent followed, its massive body scraping the walls. The space was tight, forcing the creature into a straight line. "Now!" Minho screamed. Tarkesh and the Krallans attacked the support pillars simultaneously. Stone cracked, metal bent. The tunnel began to collapse. The serpent realized the trap too late. Tons of rock and metal fell on it. The creature thrashed, its venom spraying everywhere, including on its own body. The chemical burned through scales and flesh. When the dust settled, the serpent was dead, crushed and poisoned by its own weapon. Minho crawled out of the tunnel's far end, covered in dust, but alive. Tarkesh pulled him up, checking for injuries. "You're insane," the Velkhari said, but there was respect in his voice now. "True respect, I'm human," Minho replied, breathing hard. "We do what we have to do." They reached the emergency beacon together, all of them. Help was already arriving. The rescue ships arrived within an hour. Medical teams rushed into the chamber, treating injured cadets. Minho sat on a transport ship bench wrapped in a thermal blanket watching the chaos. 14 cadets had been in the chamber when the containment systems failed. 9 survived. The 5 who died were being recovered now. Beside him, Tarkesh sat quietly. The Velkhari's fur was matted with mud and blood, some his own, most from the creatures they'd fought. His claws were damaged. One arm was bandaged. But he was alive. "The academy will shut down," Tarkesh said finally. "Too many dead. The council will call it a failure." "Maybe," Minho replied. He was too tired to argue. "You saved those cadets," Tarkesh continued. "The Theks, the Falnari, the Krallans. You could have run faster without them. We're a team. Teams don't leave people behind." Tarkesh turned to look at Minho directly. "Is that what humans really believe? Or is that just what you believe?" Minho thought about it. "Both, I think. Humans are individuals, but we survive as groups. One human alone is weak. 100 humans together can change a planet. That's how we think. That's how we've always thought." "Velkhari don't think that way," Tarkesh admitted. "We value individual strength. The strong lead. The weak follow or die. That's our way. And it's worked for you," Minho said without judgment. 30 conquered systems. That's impressive. "But we haven't learned what you know," Tarkesh said quietly. "We haven't learned that sometimes the weak become strong by working together. That sometimes the prey becomes the hunter just by refusing to quit." Minho met the Velkhari's eyes. "You're not as dumb as you pretend to be." Tarkesh barked a laugh. "And you're far more dangerous than you look, human." The next 3 days were filled with investigations. Council representatives arrived at Station Harmony 7 demanding answers. How did the containment systems fail? Why were live Vec serpents kept so close to training areas? Who was responsible for cadet deaths? All surviving cadets were interviewed separately. Minho sat in a plain room across from a board of 5 different species. They asked him to describe everything that happened moment by moment. He told them the truth. The storm, the system failure, the escape, finding other cadets, making the decision to stay together, the trap they set for the serpent. "You carried Cadet Junho despite being the smallest and weakest in your group," one interviewer noted. "A floating Kel with a translator device. Why?" "Because he needed help," Minho answered simply. "But carrying him put you at greater risk. Logical action would have been to leave him." "Maybe for some species," Minho agreed. "Not for humans. We don't leave people behind when they need help." "That's not logical. It's just right." The interviewers shared looks that Minho couldn't interpret. They dismissed him after 2 hours. Later he learned that Tarkesh's interview had been very different. The young Velkhari had been questioned by a delegation from his own people, warrior caste leaders who were furious that he'd worked with a human, furious that he'd helped save prey species, furious that he'd shown what they considered weakness. but Tarkesh hadn't backed down. According to rumors spreading through the station, he'd told the Velkari delegation that Minho was the strongest warrior he'd ever met. Not despite being human, but because of it. Humans are not prey, Tarkesh had reportedly said. They are predators who hunt in ways we don't understand. They don't hunt with claws. They hunt with patience and planning and the refusal to quit. That's more dangerous than any weapon. The Velkari delegation had not been pleased. On the 4th day after rescue, all surviving cadets were summoned to the main council chamber. Minho walked there with the other humans, all 12 of them present now. Deho walked beside him. I heard what you did in there, Deho said. Fought a Vex serpent. Saved 5 different species. Made a Velkari respect humans. We survived together, Minho corrected. That's all. That's everything, Deho replied seriously. The council is voting today on whether to continue human participation in the academy. Your actions might determine that vote. The council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in circular tiers. Representatives from 40 species filled the room. At the center stood Instructor Haxor, looking old and tired but unbowed. The head counselor, an ancient Thex named Elder Kai, spoke first. Instructor Haxor, you are charged with negligence in cadet safety. 5 cadets died under your supervision. The containment systems failed during a training exercise you designed. What is your defense? Haxor stood tall. I accept responsibility for the system failure. However, I do not accept that my training methodology was wrong. I paired specific cadets together to test interspecies cooperation. The results exceeded all expectations. 5 cadets are dead, another counselor interjected. A aggressive-looking Draken. How is that exceeding expectations? 9 cadets survived against impossible odds, Haxor countered. They survived because they worked together across species barriers. A human led a mixed group through deadly terrain while carrying a wounded teammate. A Velkari cub learned to value cooperation over individual strength. Prey species and predator species fought side by side. That's what this academy is supposed to teach. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species agreed with Haxor. Others called for the academy's closure. The Velkari delegation demanded that Tarkesh be punished for dishonoring their warrior code. Elder Kai raised a hand for silence. Before we vote, I want to hear from the cadets themselves. Cadet Minho of Earth, please approach. Minho walked to the center of the chamber. He'd never felt smaller in his life. 40 species, thousands of years of galactic civilization, all watching him. Cadet Minho, Elder Kai said. Many species believe humans are too aggressive, too warlike, too dangerous to be trusted. You come from a species that nearly destroyed itself with weapons of mass extinction. You come from a world where war was normal for thousands of years. Why should we trust humans in a peacekeeping academy? Minho took a breath. You shouldn't. Surprised murmurs filled the chamber. You shouldn't trust us because we're peaceful, Minho continued. Because we're not. Humans know violence. We know war. We know how to hurt each other in 1,000 different ways. We built weapons that could end our entire world and aimed them at our own cities. We've done terrible things throughout our history. The chamber was silent now. But we learned, Minho said quietly. We learned that being able to destroy everything doesn't mean you should. We learned that strength without wisdom leads to extinction. We learned to work together because we had to. Because the alternative was death. He looked around the chamber, meeting eyes of dozens of species. You're afraid we'll conquer you. That we'll use our stubbornness and aggression to take what we want. But here's the truth, we don't want to conquer anyone. We want to help. We want to prove that we've changed. And we'll keep proving it every single day, forever if we have to, because that's what humans do. We don't give up. Not on survival. Not on peace. Not on each other. You say you've changed, a Draken counselor challenged. But how do we know you won't return to your violent ways? You don't, Minho admitted. You have to trust us. Or don't trust us and watch us prove it anyway. Because whether you accept us or not, we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep showing up. We're going to keep refusing to quit on this alliance. That's the most human thing about us. We don't know when to stop. Elder Kai studied Minho for a long moment. Then he looked at Tarkesh. Cadet Tarkesh, you come from a species that values strength above all. You were raised to view humans as weak prey. Has your opinion changed? Tarkesh stood, his massive frame dwarfing everyone nearby. Yes, Elder, humans are not prey. They are the most dangerous species I have ever encountered. Gasps and alarmed whispers spread through the chamber. But, Tarkesh continued loudly, They are dangerous in a way that helps rather than harms. They are dangerous because they make you want to be better. They are dangerous because they don't let you quit. They are dangerous because they see value in every life, even those my species would discard. The young Velkari turned to face Minho. I was sent here to prove Velkari superiority. Instead, I learned that superiority has many forms. Strength is one, but persistence, cooperation, and the refusal to abandon others, these are stronger. The human taught me that, and I am better for learning it. The chamber erupted again, this time in heated debate. The vote took 3 hours. It was close, very close. In the end, humans remained in the Galactic Council by a margin of just 8 votes. The Academy would continue, with improved safety protocols, and Minho and Tarkesh would graduate in the same class. The first human-Velkari partnership in history.